When Daniel first matched with Emily on Instagram, it didn't feel like something extraordinary. People matched, people messaged, and most conversations died after a few polite exchanges. But this one didn't. It started with a comment she left on one of his travel pictures, a blurry sunset from the coast of Portugal where he had gone with his friends. She wrote, "That's literally my dream spot." He replied casually, "It's even better in real life. Someday you should go." He thought that was it, just a random exchange. But then she messaged back, asking about the trip, about the food, about what it felt like to stand in front of the ocean. And from that moment, something opened up between them. Daniel wasn't the kind of guy who easily fell for someone online. He always believed relationships should start in person, with real eye contact, not through a glowing screen. But Emily was different. Her way of speaking, the way she replied to his sarcastic jokes with even sharper comebacks, the way she sometimes sent voice notes with her laughter spilling in between sentences, it all felt oddly real. Before he even noticed, their chat history was becoming longer each night, stretching from good evening into 3 a.m. confessions about childhood fears and silly dreams. They were both in their early 20s. Daniel was in his last year of university in London, studying computer science. Emily lived in Manchester, working part-time while finishing her degree in psychology. The distance between them wasn't huge, but somehow it made the whole thing more thrilling. They weren't just two people in the same city running into each other. They were intentionally choosing to stay connected, despite miles and busy schedules. Within weeks, FaceTime calls became part of their routine. Emily would curl up on her bed, hair messy from the day, and Daniel would sit with his laptop on the desk, pretending to be focused on assignments but really just waiting for her call. Sometimes they would fall asleep while still connected, waking up hours later with blurry screens and awkward angles, laughing about how ridiculous they looked. It was young, exciting, and felt like something worth protecting. When they finally met in person, it wasn't awkward like people often fear with online connections. Instead, it felt like they already knew each other too well. Daniel remembered standing at the train station, scanning the crowd nervously until he spotted her. She was smaller than he expected, with a warm smile and eyes that seemed both shy and mischievous at the same time. The hug they shared was quick, but it carried months of unspoken emotions. The first day they spent together was filled with little things: coffee at a quiet cafe, walking through busy streets, and laughing over the fact that both of them were more nervous than they had admitted. By the evening, Daniel knew this wasn't just an online fling. It was real, something he wanted to hold on to. Months passed, and their relationship grew stronger. They started calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend without hesitation. Daniel's friends noticed he was always smiling at his phone, and Emily's roommates teased her about the way her voice softened whenever she said his name. It was the kind of love that felt pure, untouched by the cynicism of the world. But, as often happens, the very platform that brought them together slowly began to plant seeds of doubt. Social media, with its endless feeds and countless faces, had a way of blurring the line between connection and temptation. Daniel didn't notice it at first. He was busy with his final year projects, and he trusted Emily completely. She too seemed invested, always sending him updates about her day, sending pictures of her meals, selfies from the gym, even little notes like "wish you were here." Then one evening, while scrolling through his feed, Daniel noticed Emily had started following a new account. A guy. The profile picture showed someone stylish, with tattoos running down his arms, posing in expensive cars. Daniel didn't think much of it at first. People followed people all the time. But then he saw a new like on Emily's recent post, a heart from the same guy. Again, it was nothing unusual, but the thought stuck in Daniel's head longer than it should have. The next time he video called Emily, he tried to ignore the thought. She was cheerful as always, telling him about her long day at work, rolling her eyes about her boss, and then asking how his coding project was going. But while she talked, Daniel caught himself wondering, was she still texting that guy? Did she'll find him attractive? Why had she followed him in the first place? He hated himself for doubting her, but the thought didn't leave. As weeks went on, little things piled up. Emily became slightly harder to reach in the evenings. Where once she would reply instantly, now she sometimes left his messages unseen. For an hour, then two. When Daniel asked, she would explain she was busy with assignments or out with her friends. The reasons made sense, yet the unease inside him grew. One night, while on a late call, Daniel decided to bring it up casually. "Hey, I noticed you've got some new followers. Who's that guy who keeps liking your pictures?" He tried to sound light, almost joking, but he felt his heart beating faster. Emily paused, just for a second, before laughing. "Oh, he's just a random guy who messaged me after I posted about psychology. He said he's into the same field." "Chill. Daniel, you're not jealous, are you?" She smiled through the screen, but Daniel sensed something in her eyes, a flicker too quick to name. "I'm not jealous," he said quickly, though his voice betrayed him. "Just curious." "Relax," she replied, changing the topic to something else, and Daniel let it slide. But that night, he couldn't sleep. He replayed the conversation over and over, analyzing her tone, her pause, the way she brushed it off. Was it really innocent, or was there more to it? Over the next few weeks, Emily's online behavior shifted further. She posted more selfies, sometimes with captions that felt unusually cryptic, like "feeling free tonight" or "some people never change." Her comments section filled with compliments, some from girls, but increasingly from random men. Daniel noticed one account in particular, the same tattooed guy leaving comments that felt borderline flirty. Stunning as always, that smile though, little things that shouldn't matter, but somehow did, and Emily never deleted them. Sometimes, she even replied with laughing emojis or a simple thanks. Daniel tried to ignore it, telling himself not to be the clingy, paranoid boyfriend. But inside, a storm was brewing. He wanted to trust her. He truly did. Yet every notification on her posts, every time she went offline suddenly during their chats, it all added fuel to the fire. Then came the first real crack. One weekend, Daniel had planned to visit Emily in Manchester. He had told her about it a week earlier, and she had seemed excited. But just 2 days before the trip, she messaged him saying she couldn't make time. She said her cousin was coming over, that her family needed her at home. Daniel felt disappointed but didn't argue. He told her it was fine. Maybe they could meet next week instead. But when Saturday came, Daniel was scrolling absent-mindedly through Instagram when he saw a tagged story. It was Emily, in a bar with her friends, dressed up, holding a drink, laughing into the camera. The person who tagged her, the same tattooed guy. Daniel froze. His stomach twisted as he replayed the story. She had lied. She hadn't been home with family. She had gone out, and not just with her regular friends, but with him. The betrayal hit like a punch. He wanted to call her immediately, demand an explanation, scream, cry, anything. But instead, he sat staring at the screen, his hands trembling, his throat dry. When Emily finally messaged him that night, hours later, she simply wrote, "Hey babe, just got home. So tired." Daniel stared at the text, his chest tightening. She was lying to his face. He typed out a reply, "How was the bar?" His fingers shook as he pressed send. There was no response for 5 minutes, then 10. Finally, the typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then reappeared again. At last, she replied, "What do you mean?" Daniel's heart sank deeper. She was pretending like he hadn't seen it, pretending like the truth wasn't out there for anyone to witness. And in that moment, Daniel knew the relationship wasn't the same anymore. Something had shifted, something had cracked open, and no matter how much he wanted to believe in them, the reality was that the seeds of betrayal had already been planted. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his phone lying face up beside him like a piece of evidence in a trial he hadn't prepared for. Every time he closed his eyes, the image of Emily laughing with that guy at the bar returned, played in his head like a loop, her smile brighter than it had ever been in their video calls. He told himself not to jump to conclusions, that maybe it was innocent, maybe she hadn't told him because she didn't want him to worry, but deep down, he knew something wasn't right. The next morning, his phone buzzed with a text from her. "Good morning, babe. Hope you slept well. Miss ya." He stared at the words, anger bubbling under his skin. How could she say miss you after lying so easily the night before? He didn't reply immediately. Instead, he waited, letting the minutes stretch into hours. Around noon, Emily called. He answered, trying to sound calm. "Hey," she said, her voice as sweet as always. "Why didn't you reply? Everything okay?" Daniel hesitated, then asked directly, "Were you out last night?" There was silence on the line for a second, then Emily laughed nervously. "What? No, I told you, I was at home with family." His heart sank. She was still lying. He clenched his jaw and said, "I saw the story, Emily. You were tagged at a bar." With him, this time, the silence was longer. He could hear her breathing through the phone, sharp and uneven. Finally, she spoke, her tone defensive. "Okay, fine. Yes, I went out, but it wasn't a big deal. My cousin canceled last minute, and my friends asked me to join. I didn't think you'd mind." "You didn't think I'd mind?" Daniel repeated, his voice shaking. "You lied to me. You told me you couldn't meet because of family. And then you go out with him. Why are you making it about him?" Emily snapped. "He's just a friend of my friends. We were all hanging out together. You're overreacting." Daniel wanted to believe her, wanted to hold on to the image of the girl he had fallen in love with, but her words felt rehearsed, her excuses thin. He ended the call quickly, saying he needed time to think. When he hung up, he felt like a part of him had cracked open, spilling doubt everywhere. Over the next week, their conversations grew strained. Daniel found himself checking her social media more often, something he had promised himself he would never do. Every new like, every comment, felt like a stab. He noticed patterns. She replied to that guy faster than she replied to him. She posted more late-night stories, and sometimes, when he called, she claimed to be too tired but was still active online. One evening, unable to hold it in, he confronted her again. Emily, are you seeing someone else? Her eyes widened on the screen. Are you serious? Daniel, I'm with you. Why would you even say that? Because you're different, he said quietly. You're distant, you lie, you spend more time online than with me. I can feel it, Emily. You've changed. Her face hardened. You're being paranoid. Relationships need trust. If you don't trust me, then maybe this isn't going to work. The words cut deep. He wanted to argue, to scream that she was twisting everything, but instead, he stayed silent. He didn't want to lose her, not yet, so he swallowed his doubts and tried to move on. But moving on wasn't easy. A few days later, one of Daniel's friends sent him a screenshot. It was Emily, in a comment thread under a picture the tattooed guy had posted. Her words weren't explicit, but they carried a playful tone, a kind of teasing that Daniel had once thought was reserved for him. Seeing her write "your trouble," followed by a wink emoji, broke something inside him. That night, Daniel didn't call her. He didn't text. He just sat in his room, staring at the screenshot, wondering how love could turn so sour so quickly. He thought about the nights they had fallen asleep on FaceTime, the plans they had made to travel together, the promises whispered between them. Were all those moments real, or had she been drifting away long before he noticed? The next day, Emily reached out first. Hey, haven't heard from you. Are you mad at me again? Daniel replied bluntly. I saw the comments. There was a pause, then she typed, oh my God, Daniel, are you really stalking me now? It was just a joke, nothing serious. A joke, he repeated bitterly. You're flirting with him, publicly, and you call it a joke. You're impossible, she shot back. I can't live under a microscope. If you're going to question everything I do, maybe we should take a break. The words take a break echoed in Daniel's mind. A break, he hadn't expected that. He thought maybe they'd fight, maybe she'd apologize, maybe they'd work it out, but a break that felt like an ending disguised as a pause. He didn't reply for hours. When he finally did, all he wrote was, if that's what you want. The days that followed were torture. Daniel kept checking her profile even though he told himself not to. She seemed happier, posting pictures at parties, sharing songs about freedom and living without regrets. The tattooed guy appeared in more of her tagged photos, always close, always smiling with her. Daniel felt like he was watching himself being erased from her life, one post at a time. One Friday night, unable to bear it any longer, he messaged her, do you still love me? She didn't reply immediately. When she finally did, her answer was short, I don't know. Those 3 words shattered him. He read them over and over, hoping he had misunderstood, but the meaning was clear. She wasn't sure anymore. He called her, desperate for something more, but she didn't pick up. The call rang and rang, then went to voicemail. He tried again, no answer. Eventually she texted, I'm out with friends. Can we talk tomorrow? But tomorrow never came. Instead, Daniel woke up to find a new picture on her Instagram. It was Emily, sitting on the hood of a car, the tattooed guy standing beside her with his arm around her shoulders. The caption read, good vibes only. Daniel felt his chest tighten, his throat closing. It was public now. Whatever she had been hiding, whatever she had denied, was out there for everyone to see. She had chosen him. He wanted to scream, to throw his phone, to erase every memory of her. But instead, he just sat there in silence, scrolling through the comments. People were congratulating them, calling them a cute couple. And in that moment, Daniel realized he was no longer part of her story. He had been replaced. Yet even as the truth stared him in the face, a part of him refused to let go. He told himself maybe it was just a rebound. Maybe she was confused. Maybe she'd come back. But deep down, he knew. The girl he had fallen for on a random Instagram comment was gone, and in her place was someone he barely recognized. The days after seeing Emily's picture with the other guy were some of the darkest Daniel had ever lived through. He tried to bury himself in his coursework, in late-night gaming with friends, in anything that could distract him from the constant ache in his chest. But no matter what he did, Emily's face appeared everywhere, her laugh in his memories, her voice echoing in the silence of his apartment, her name flashing on his phone in the past conversations he couldn't bring himself to delete. His friends told him to block her, to cut her out completely, but Daniel couldn't. Every night, he found himself scrolling through her profile, watching her stories, trying to read between the lines of her captions. She looked happy, glowing in ways she hadn't when she was with him. But sometimes, when he zoomed in on her expression, he thought he saw something else: tired eyes, forced smiles, a girl playing a part. One night, after a few drinks, Daniel broke his silence and messaged her, do you ever think about us? He regretted it instantly, expecting no reply. But within minutes, she answered, sometimes. That single word reopened every wound. He wanted to scream at her, to ask how she could ruin him and still admit she thought about what they had. Instead, he typed back, then why are you with him? There was a long pause. Then her reply came, it's complicated. Those 2 words haunted Daniel. Complicated. What did it mean? Was she unhappy? Was she just passing time? Or was she stringing him along, keeping him as a backup while she explored something new? Over the next week, Emily reached out more often. Small texts at odd hours. I miss talking to you. Remember when we stayed up all night watching movies? I can't sleep. Each message pulled Daniel back into her orbit, even as he knew she was still with the other guy. One evening, she called him. Her voice was soft, almost fragile. I don't know what I'm doing. Daniel, he's fun, but it's not the same. I can't stop thinking about you. Daniel's heart pounded. He wanted to believe her, to imagine that she would leave the other guy and come back to him. But there was a part of him, the rational part, that whispered this was just another lie. Another way of keeping him hooked, while she enjoyed the best of both worlds. Then leave him, Daniel said firmly. If you want me, if you really still care, end it with him. Emily went quiet. He could hear her breathing, the hesitation in her silence. Finally, she said, I can't, not yet. The words cut deeper than anything before. Not yet. It meant she wanted both. She wanted the excitement of the new guy and the comfort of knowing Daniel was still waiting for her. He felt like a fool, trapped in her game, unable to escape. After that call, Daniel tried harder to distance himself. He muted her stories, deleted their old chats, and told himself he was done. But just when he started to feel a little stronger, she would reappear with another message. Saw something today that reminded me of you. Wish you were here. You still mean so much to me. Each time, Daniel fell back into the cycle: hope, confusion, disappointment. It was an emotional tug of war, and he was always the one losing. Then one night, he went out with his friends, hoping to forget everything for a while. They ended up at a crowded bar in London. Daniel was halfway through his second drink when he froze. Across the room, standing with a group of people, was Emily, and beside her, as always, was the tattooed guy. Daniel's heart stopped. He hadn't expected this. She hadn't told him she'd be in London. She hadn't told him anything. For a moment, he considered leaving, but then Emily's eyes met his. Her expression flickered surprise, guilt, something else he couldn't name. She whispered something to the guy, then made her way through the crowd toward Daniel. His friends noticed, falling silent as she approached. Daniel, she said softly, almost like a plea. He stared at her, 1,000 emotions colliding in his chest. Anger, love, hurt, longing. What are you doing here? He asked, his voice low. She began. But the guy was already walking over, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. Everything okay, babe? He asked, his tone casual but firm. Daniel's stomach twisted at the word babe. Emily didn't correct him. She didn't push his hand away. She just stood there, caught between two worlds. Her eyes locked on Daniel's. For the first time, Daniel saw the truth clearly. She wasn't confused. She wasn't torn. She was choosing him, the other guy, right in front of Daniel. And yet, the way her eyes lingered told a different story. Without another word, Daniel turned and walked out of the bar, his friends following behind. He didn't look back, but he could feel her gaze burning into him, heavy with everything they would never say. That night, lying awake in his bed, Daniel realized something he hadn't before. Emily might still care about him. She might even still love him in her own way, but she wasn't willing to give up the thrill of her new life. And as long as he stayed within her reach, she would keep him there, dangling, half in and half out. For the first time, Daniel wondered if the real betrayal wasn't just her cheating, but the way he kept letting her back in. Daniel spent the next week in a haze. The bar encounter replayed in his mind over and over again, each detail sharper than the last. The way Emily froze when she saw him, the guy's hand on her shoulder, the word babe echoing in his head. Like a curse, it wasn't just about jealousy anymore. It was about humiliation. He had been made the outsider in a relationship he thought was built on love, loyalty, and trust. He had become a spectator in Emily's new life, watching her slip further and further away while she still dangled threads of false hope in front of him. His friends kept telling him to cut her off. She's toxic, mate, one of them said bluntly. She wants you to suffer while she's out having fun. Don't give her that power. But letting go wasn't so simple. Every time Daniel tried to block her number, his hands froze. Every time he considered deleting her profile from his feed, he hesitated. Deep down, he still wanted her to come back, to wake up one day and realize she had made a mistake. A few nights later, his phone buzzed with a late message from her. I didn't expect to see you at the bar. I'm sorry you had to see that. Daniel stared at the text, fury rising inside. I'm sorry. That was all she had to say. He typed back, then why didn't you tell me you'd be in London? Why didn't you tell me you were with him? Her reply came quickly, because I knew you'd react like this. I didn't want to hurt you. Daniel's blood boiled. You think lying is less hurtful than the truth. There was a pause. Then, it's complicated. Daniel, you know I still care about you. Those words, again, I still care. She always used them like a bandage, covering wounds she had no intention of healing. He slammed his phone down on the table, fighting the urge to scream. Over the next days, Emily kept texting him, sometimes sending long messages about how much she missed the way things used to be, sometimes sending nothing more than a single heart emoji at 2 a.m. Each one dragged Daniel deeper into the cycle. He hated her for what she was doing, but he hated himself more for still replying. Then came the night that broke him further. Daniel was scrolling through Instagram when he saw Emily's story. It was just a short clip, music playing, dim lights, laughter in the background. But then the camera flipped, and there she was, sitting on the couch with the tattooed guy, his arm wrapped tightly around her waist. She leaned into him, smiling that same smile Daniel had once believed was his alone. The story ended before he could even process it, but the damage was already done. His chest tightened, his throat dry. He knew it was real now. Whatever excuses she had made, whatever half-hearted apologies she had given, the truth was undeniable. She wasn't just flirting. She wasn't just confused. She was with him. Daniel sat in silence, his phone heavy in his hand. His mind replayed every moment of their relationship, her late-night confessions, the promises they made, the nights they swore they'd never give up on each other. All of it felt like a cruel joke now. And then, as if to twist the knife deeper, his phone buzzed again. A message from Emily. "I miss you tonight." Daniel stared at the screen, his hands trembling. He wanted to throw the phone across the room, but instead, he typed, "Stop lying. I saw your story." This time, her reply took longer. Finally, she wrote, "Daniel, please don't misunderstand. He doesn't mean what you think. It's not serious, not serious." The words made him laugh bitterly. "Not serious," he muttered to himself, as if cheating could be measured by seriousness. She was trying to minimize it, to gaslight him into believing his pain wasn't justified. For the first time, Daniel snapped. He called her, and when she answered, his voice was trembling with rage. "You're unbelievable, Emily. You lie, you cheat, and then you come to me saying, you miss me. Do you enjoy this? Do you enjoy watching me break while you play both sides?" Didn't reply right away. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "I don't want to lose you, Daniel." His heart twisted painfully. "Then why are you doing this?" "Because," she hesitated, then sighed. "Because he makes me feel alive, and you make me feel safe. I don't want to choose." The honesty of it was more devastating than any lie. She admitted it openly. She wanted both. She wanted the thrill and the security, the passion and the comfort. And Daniel, in that moment, realized he had been reduced to a safety net, a backup plan she could fall back on whenever her excitement wore off. He ended the call abruptly, unable to hear her voice any longer. For hours, he sat in silence, numb. His friends tried to reach out, but he ignored them. He didn't want comfort. He didn't want advice. He wanted the pain to stop, and yet, part of him clung to it, as if letting go of the pain meant letting go of her completely. The following weekend, Daniel made a mistake. He agreed to meet her. She had begged him, saying she just wanted to talk, that she needed to see him face to face. Against his better judgment, he said yes. They met at a quiet cafe in the city, away from the crowds. When Daniel walked in, his heart skipped a beat. Emily was sitting by the window, her hair loose, a soft smile on her face. For a moment, it felt like old times. For a moment, he almost forgot everything. She stood to hug him, and he let her. The warmth of her body against his made his chest ache with longing. When they sat down, she reached across the table, her fingers brushing against his hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I've been selfish. I don't want to hurt you, but I don't know how to let go either." Daniel pulled his hand away, shaking his head. "You already hurt me, Emily, more than you know. And every time you say you care, it just makes it worse." Tears welled in her eyes, but Daniel couldn't tell if they were real or just another performance. She leaned in, lowering her voice. "He doesn't love me the way you do. He doesn't know me like you do. I need you, Daniel. Please don't leave me." His heart screamed at him to stay strong, to walk away, but his body betrayed him. He wanted to believe her, wanted to believe there was still a chance. And in that weakness, she leaned closer, pressing her lips to his dot. The kiss was soft, familiar, intoxicating. For a few seconds, Daniel melted into it, forgetting everything. But then the image of her with the other guy flashed in his mind, and he pulled back abruptly, his chest heaving. "No," he said firmly, "I can't do this. Not while you're with him." Emily looked at him with pleading eyes, but she didn't deny it. She didn't promise to leave the other guy. She just sat there in silence, as if hoping her presence alone would be enough to keep him. Daniel stood, his chair scraping against the floor. "Goodbye, Emily," he said, his voice breaking. And this time, he meant it. But as he walked out of the cafe, his phone buzzed again. A notification, another tagged photo. Emily and the tattooed guy, this time at a concert, arms wrapped around each other, laughing like they had no cares in the world. Daniel stopped in the middle of the street, staring at the screen, his vision blurred with tears, his hands shaking. The reality was undeniable. Now, no matter what she said, no matter how many times she claimed to care, she had chosen her new life. and all he was left with were pieces of a love that had once felt unbreakable, yet deep inside, he knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Emily wasn't finished with him. She would come back again, with her half-truths and her sweet words. And he would have to decide once and for all whether to let her destroy him completely or finally cut her out of his life. Daniel spent the following weeks like a ghost, moving through his own life. He went to classes, sat in lectures, submitted his projects, and hung out with friends, but everything felt muted, colorless. Every laugh felt forced, every smile fake. Inside, he was hollow. He had tried walking away, he had tried saying goodbye, but Emily's shadow followed him everywhere. Some nights he managed to convince himself it was over, that she was just a bad chapter in an otherwise promising life. But then his phone would buzz, and her name would flash across the screen. Every time, his heart betrayed him. He told himself not to answer, not to reply, but his fingers always gave in. One night, close to midnight, she messaged him again. "Can I call you? Please. Just 5 minutes." Daniel stared at the screen, torn between anger and longing. Against his better judgment, he replied, "Fine." The call came through seconds later. When he answered, her voice was quiet, almost fragile. "I can't sleep," she said. "I keep thinking about you." Daniel clenched his jaw. "You're with him, Emily. Don't pretend otherwise." "I know," she whispered, "but it doesn't feel the same. He's fun, he's exciting, but he doesn't make me feel safe. With you, I felt like I could be myself. I miss that." Daniel felt a surge of emotions, hope, anger, sadness. "You don't get to say that," he snapped. "You don't get to miss me while you're lying in his bed." Her silence on the other end spoke volumes. She wasn't denying it. She wasn't even trying anymore. Finally, she said, "I don't know what I want. Daniel, I'm confused." His laugh was bitter, hollow. "No, you're not confused. You just don't want to lose your safety net while you enjoy your thrill. You've made your choice, Emily, you just don't have the courage to admit it." There was a long pause. Then she said softly, "Do you hate me?" Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to scream it, but the truth was, he didn't. "No," he said quietly. "I don't hate you. I just can't love you anymore." And with that, he ended the call. For the first time in months, he didn't regret it, but the story didn't end there. A week later, Daniel was out with his friends when Emily showed up unannounced. She spotted him across the bar and walked straight toward him, her eyes glossy, her expression desperate. His friends stepped aside awkwardly, leaving them face to face. "Daniel," she said, her voice trembling. "Please, I need to talk to you." He stared at her, stunned. "Why are you here?" "I ended things with him," she blurted out. "I couldn't do it anymore. I realized I want you. I've made mistakes. I've been selfish, but I want to fix it. Please give me another chance." Daniel's chest tightened. For months, he had dreamed of hearing those words. He had begged for them in silence, prayed for them in his weakest moments. And now, here she was, saying everything he thought he wanted. But instead of relief, he felt only exhaustion. He looked at her carefully, searching her eyes for sincerity. For once, she didn't look manipulative. She looked scared, vulnerable. "Why now?" he asked quietly. "Why after everything? After you lied, cheated, humiliated me?" "Because I was stupid," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I thought I needed excitement. I thought I needed something new. But I was wrong. You were the one who truly loved me. You're the one who never gave up, and I threw it all away. Please, Daniel, don't let this be the end." His heart ached hearing her cry, but his mind was sharper now. He remembered every sleepless night, every excuse, every time she had chosen the other guy over him. He remembered how she had kissed him at the cafe, only to be tagged in another photo with the tattooed guy hours later. He took a deep breath. "Emily, I loved you more than I've ever loved anyone. And you destroyed me. You made me doubt myself, question my worth, and live in constant pain. And the worst part, you didn't care. You watched me break, and you kept coming back, pulling me deeper every time. That's not love. That's cruelty." Her face crumpled. "No, I care. I swear." "No," he interrupted firmly. "You cared about losing me, not about me. And there's a difference." The words hung between them, heavy and final. Emily sobbed quietly, reaching for his hand, but he stepped back. For the first time, he felt a strange kind of freedom. The weight on his chest was lifting, replaced by clarity. "I'm done, Emily," he said softly. "I can't be your safety net anymore. I deserve better. I deserve someone who doesn't need to choose between me and someone else." She looked at him, broken, as if realizing too late what she had lost. Daniel turned and walked away, his friends following behind. He didn't look back. That night, for the first time in months, Daniel slept peacefully. Weeks turned into months. Emily tried reaching out a few times, but Daniel ignored her messages. Slowly, her presence faded from his life. He stopped checking her profile, stopped replaying their old conversations. He poured his energy into his work, his friends, and himself. It wasn't easy, but each day the ache in his chest grew lighter. One evening, sitting by the Thames with a friend, Daniel realized something. The story wasn't about Emily anymore. It wasn't about betrayal, or lies, or heartbreak. It was about him, about finding the strength to let go of someone who never truly valued him, about choosing himself over the person who kept tearing him down. Emily would always be a chapter in his life, a painful one, a lesson written in heartbreak, but she wasn't the whole story. And as he watched the city lights flicker on the water, Daniel finally felt ready for something new. Not another Emily, not another half-loved, but something real, something honest, something he deserved. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of the future. He was ready.